Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Today is Monday, October 27th. It is 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. EST, and something else in between there for the rest of the country. We are here today for our inaugural session of the village that I've been thinking of creating for more than a year. And thank you, Tracy, for the push. She did a talk that I saw last week, Tuesday. And in less than a week, here we are. And I'm so grateful for all your support, for the double digits number of people who signed up. And thanks for everyone who's here. And hopefully we'll continue to create this community, which I hope can be special for us. And my whole goal for this community is to have a place for us to connect. My word is connection. It can be a place for connection, not just with each other, because we sorely need it in this world, and also a place for connection with ourselves, which is also a big goal for us. We are living this fast-paced world where we are constantly bombarded with information, bombarded with the number of things we have to do, these checklists. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I've got my head cut off and it's like stuck right here and my body's trying to go that way and that way. And it's just kind of going all over the place. I have this mental image of that. And like my body tries to go in one way, but it gets pulled back and then gets yanked the other way. And it just, nothing really gets done when I'm in that space. So this is our place to reconnect body, mind, soul, and to then show up better for the world. Because if we take this time for ourselves, hopefully we can be there for more. So today's topic, which has been near and dear to my heart, which I've been talking about for more than a year, is how to pause. And I don't have slides for today on purpose because I want it to be just a few minutes of me talking, and then we're going to jump right into the community. And the one last thing I'm going to say about why we are here together, a lot of us have been people who've been surviving through a lot of things, people who've been just kind of going through the motions. And a lot of us are givers, caretakers, people who care for others, people who care about others. And as we do that, a lot of us can feel drained from just giving and giving. And this is our space to receive, not just from ourselves, but from each other and from this community, so that we can then reset and restart and figure out a way that we can continue to give first to ourselves so that we can give more to others as well. Last two things I'm going to say about this community. One thing that came to mind is the community is only as special and as amazing it can be based on the members in it. So thank you for being here, and I hope we can continue to foster that kind of community. And we aren't here for us just to hear me. This is a space for us to hear each other, to share our resources, to share what we gather and know, so we can then use what serves us, let go of what doesn't, and find our own way forward. Hence the whole wayfinding moms, because I've always been about finding our own way, which doesn't have to be the right way for everyone. The imagery I shared with a few of you on the message was this vision that we're all just walking through this forest and we're all finding our own path and trying to figure out how to get through and just surviving. And if we just gathered together in this forest, and if we just sat at the campfire, shared, what we found down the path that we've gone so far, then hopefully maybe we can figure out a better way through. And that is our goal today. So it's not all about me, it's about us, it's about ourselves and about the community for today. So very quickly, some of you have seen this, some of you haven't. Pause is something that I came up with. It's an acronym that I created to help us figure out how to pause and help us understand what's making us get into the space of just being triggered or of being taken in by this fast-paced world and forgetting ourselves. And this is our space to remember, to come back, to reconnect. And this tool first came about because I wanted to create it for my kid. And it came about because I wanted to be a better parent, to work on myself, and then show parents how to take care of themselves first and then care for their kids this way. And yet I realized it can apply to everyone and anyone. So I'm spreading this message to all who are ready and willing to use this method or something out of it, because obviously you take what you want and what you need from this. So The first part of pause starts with P, which is presence. First of all, is pause and presence. And the significance of that comes from this idea that a lot of us land up being in fight or flight all the time. Who here knows what fight or flight is? I'm trying to see everyone's scored. Yeah, not everyone has their images available. If you want to, that'd be great. Or just raise your electronic hand. Okay, so just quickly, a lot of you do, and fight or flight is when our bodies react because we feel like we're not safe. That reaction can be different for different people, and that's why it's fight or flight. There are a couple of others, fawn and freeze, which I'm not going to go into right now. But if we were to stick with just fight or flight, thank you, Jennifer. The freeze and the fawn have a different mechanism, and it's a lot of depth and detail that I don't want to get into right now. So fight or flight for now. We're going to try and figure out what in us makes us go into fight or flight and which one we prefer. And hopefully when we do some sharing, we can figure that out a little bit better for ourselves. But as we go into fight or flight, our heart starts pumping, our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up, our muscles get tense. We're literally ready to either flee or fight. And as that happens, the blood supply goes away from the stomach, goes away from any areas that need to be repaired, and goes straight to the skeletal muscle, straight to the parts that are needed to help us flee or to fight so we can survive. And the more that keeps happening, the more often it keeps happening, the more chronic it becomes, the more the blood is not where it's needed to help us restore, repair, fight off infections, to rest, to digest nutrition and anything else. And that's how we get into this perpetual cycle of stress, of anxiety. And I'm going to share this one slide, because I have slides and I always do, just to give you a big picture, one look, and then we move forward from it. Here we go. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So this is just showing us what stress can do. Medically, this leads to anxiety, irritability, insomnia, palpitations. You can read the rest. You don't have to read the rest. It leads to decreased immunity, so you're more likely to get infections. You are also going to have a decreased lifespan if you stay in the state longer than you need to. It absolutely is urgent and helpful when we absolutely need it for survival. And yet, when we get into this fight or flight, when we have a deadline or we're in a situation where we need to advocate for ourselves, then it's not helpful. And it can lead to abdominal fat increase, inflammation, pain. A lot of people have chronic pain issues, increased or decreased appetite, weight gain or weight loss, insulin resistance, blood sugar. And of course, you know where this is going: hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, and an increased risk of heart attack and stroke. So this is why this matters. And this is why we're here today. So thank you. So pause. We have several ways to get out of fight or flight. And yet the main basic way is to first recognize that we're in fight or flight. Once we can recognize it, we can be aware of it. That's when we can figure out what we want to do next. So that's what pause means. And to take that 3 seconds before we respond, before we react, before we jump into conclusions or whatever else our body wants us to do. In the moment, if we were to just take that 3 seconds, then we can be aware, recognize that we are in fight or flight. Oh, yeah, my heart is pumping faster. Oh, I do feel something here. Oh, my shoulders are up in the air. And as we do that, we can then go down that track, which we will practice with our future sessions and with today, so we can then show up where we want to and respond instead of react. A lot of people here can be resistant, and even I have been in the past resistant to this idea of pause meaning stillness, pause meaning meditation, pause meaning stopping what we're doing or stopping our thoughts, which are kind of serving us. And the main idea is when we've got this chicken running across with its head cut off, we're not really connected with our body, and we are kind of just in our minds. And what can happen with our minds, you can have one thought that leads to an emotion or a trigger that leads to fight or flight, and then that reaction leads to an even stronger thought And then that new thought can lead to an even stronger emotion, and we can land up spiraling in this space. And as we get into the spiral, Martha Beck talks of it as the anxiety spiral. When we get into this anxiety spiral, we're no help to anyone. We're further into fight or flight. We're not going to be able to show up where we want to, and we're going to react instead of responding. So what we're talking about with the pause is to break that cycle, break that spiral, and then we can respond. I want you to be able to share with me as well what helps you pause. So we'll go through that in the end, but a few things that have worked for me, and these are in the moment pause, when we are actively triggered, when we know, if our executive functioning brain was working, it would have told us, yeah, you are safe. You don't need to run right now. You don't have a bear coming at you right now. So if we could have accessed that, it would tell us that. But if we haven't been able to access it yet, a simple technique can be just to put your fingers together and just notice and just move them across and just notice the ridges and just notice what you see. Some people don't like to connect with their bodies, which is totally fine. Another thought would be to think of a color. I'm going to pick blue. And then look around in your space and look at everything that you notice that's blue. And just think of the word for it, whatever it is, yoga mat or a book or something like that. And just notice everything that's blue. And then switch it to a different color and just notice that color. Another quick way, if you are, say, in a meeting and you can't be looking like this, or you can't be, showing what you're doing, just under the table, just grasp your hands together and yank together. If you're sitting in a Zoom room like this where you don't really even need to wear pants, you can just put one hand underneath your one hip, the other hand across, like you're just folding your arms, and you're giving yourself a tight squeeze. So any simple trick like that, just to get you back away from the spiral and into your body, can be helpful. Another one, if you do have the moment, I like to put one hand on my chest and one hand on my stomach and take some breaths and notice which one rises more, and purposefully and intentionally start making my stomach hand rise more. And that just switches us to diaphragmatic breaths, which triggers the vagus nerve, which connects to the diaphragm. And that vagus nerve is also another way to get into the rest or digest instead of the fight or flight. Now, I want to share that these are all in the moment ways to get away from fight or flight. And there is this idea that if we have been constantly stressed and constantly feel like we're under attack, our baseline has gotten higher. So it's very easy to reach our threshold and go above it. So if we were able to bring our baseline lower, some of these little triggers, as we work on not letting these attacks or feelings of unsafety not trigger us as much, we're not only bringing down the hills, we can also bring down the whole baseline. And to bring down the whole baseline, that's where we do the work on stillness practices, meditation, and those who don't like the stillness part, exercise, walks, being out in nature. And that's hopefully what I want to share, I want us all to share today, so we can all share what works for us and what doesn't, and come up with that together. And with that, we're at the 20-minute mark. So I am going to pause the recording, and the rest of this session is for the live participants. Thank you all for joining me. And thank you for those listening for what's happened so far. And hopefully these little 20-minute tools can help us through our days and weeks and months. And I hope to continue this as often as I can with as many who can to show up and get the benefit of the live as well.